I picked the word dawah, the need for us to see this beyond profitability, and also for us to see how we are able to enlighten as well as bring about much education for people who are familiar with Islamic finance and those that are not so familiar with Islamic finance.
Alhamdulillah, I feel very grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He is giving us this opportunity to share different topics in Islamic finance and Sharia compliance. And we take this as a form of da'wah to the mass Muslim communities as well as the non-Muslims, everyone in this world, every human being as well, inshallah. When it comes to AI or artificial intelligence, I think the very first we need to understand how it works. But bulk of the AI, the characteristic is it will try to feed itself from random information. And I go to the standard, I see there is no such clause. It stops at 5.2, meaning the entire clause was made up and was made by an AI.
Yeah.
And based on that, a decision was made.
Allah.
So later on, I immediately called the person who brought this reference. I said, it looks like a AI generated reference. He went back, he told the AI, and the AI apologized. But what is the use of this apology? You have already made the decision. We had to reverse the entire decision, which was the outcome for an entire, meeting.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to the Bismillah podcast by ADL Advisory. Inshallah, we are going to be exploring different aspects of Islamic finance as well as AI, and also importantly, we are going to be looking at compliance as far as AI is concerned. I am AbdulAkeem Akinbode, and together we are going to be dealing and also dive into Islamic finance as well as trying to explore different regulation as far as AI is concerned. In the emerging world, we are seeing the advent of AI taking the center stage, and we are also seeing the advent of AI adoption across different sectors. Importantly, we have also seen that integration of AI has taken different shapes and form. The same way in Islamic finance, there's need for us to dissect, there's need for us to look at the applicability as well as adoption of AI without forgetting the shady and also issues that also aligns with AI adoption. These are the conversations we are going to be having with experts. In this particular episode, I'm going to be inviting, for the first of its kind, launching this podcast, I'll be having with me Mufti Dr. Yousuf Sultan, the founder and CEO of ADL Advisory.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's interesting to have you join us today, being the first launch of the Bismillah podcast by ADL Advisory. And I'm very happy that you are launching this with us, Mufti. How do you feel?
Alhamdulillah, I feel very grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He is giving us this opportunity to share different topics in Islamic finance and Sharia compliance. And we take this as a form of da'wah to the mass Muslim communities as well as the non-Muslims, everyone in this world, every human being as well, inshallah.
I picked the word dawah, the need for us to see this beyond profitability, and also for us to see how we are able to enlighten as well as bring about much education for people who are familiar with Islamic finance and those that are not so familiar with Islamic finance. So I believe this is part of those conversations we are going to be having, especially as far as AI adoption is concerned, and also the very dark consideration around AI adoption, especially for the use of Shariah. And in this particular conversation, we are going to be learning from you, understanding the fact that you are a Mufti, and also understanding the fact that you have also currently sitting on different Sharia board in different organizations, and also trying to learn from your expertise. And we also want to learn from your practical experiences. So first, I want to ask you, Mufti, looking at AI compliance and looking at how AI compliance can be used in Sharia review, what is your take on that, and what are the real challenges that you see around that?
Thank you so much, Brother Abdul Hakim. Firstly, I want to share as a disclaimer that I also consider myself as a talib al-ilm, as a seeker of knowledge. I'm also learning every day. Every single experience that I get, I try to take the opportunity to learn and rectify my learn and unlearn. So something that I have learned previously, but it didn't work, or I need to upskill myself. I am always in a journey. I believe all of us, we are in a journey to learn things. When it comes to AI or artificial intelligence, I think the very first we need to understand how it works. Technical sides aside, if I want to explain from a very layman term how I understand it, is AI learns from a few ways. First and foremost, it needs a database or some data for it to understand or learn from, to have some preliminary context of something. Let's say I feed with some books, some fatwas or resolutions when it comes to Sharia fraternity. And from there, it can learn, firstly, the previous resolutions or the verdicts that were given by scholars. Secondly, it can also learn the patterns, the patterns of the resolutions, how a resolution was provided, etc. So, in other words, the first and foremost, the main ingredient for AI to work is the data. So it depends a lot on what type of data it is fed. Is it fed with credible data, or it is just feeding itself with any data available in the web, which anyone can provide or write or author. Second part is it also analyzes the data and creates its own new data as well. Of course, it tries to learn from the patterns of the old data, as well as the algorithms, the mathematical ways to understand and reproduce some contents. Now, when it comes to the usage of AI in Sharia compliance, if we look from these two perspectives, of course, as I mentioned, I'm keeping aside the technical details.
Okay.
I'm not a technical expert, by the way. I'm just trying to give an overall context, which are relevant for us when we want to consider this from Sharia point of view. So the first thing is it takes from the underlying data. So we need to be very careful that when we are using for AI for Sharia, that it is using reliable, authentic sources, which we as in Sharia methodology, in Usul Fiqh methodology, we consider as reliable. So that is the first context. If we try to analyze the AI that are available today, I don't want to name any particular AI or any particular company, but bulk of the AI, the characteristic is it will try to feed itself from random information, from random data that are available on the web, maybe on the research papers, on the books, etc. So that itself creates a lot of gaps or loopholes when it comes to the authenticity that we need from Sharia point of view. So I think for now, I just wanted to share that part, that is something that we need to consider when it comes to using AI for Sharia compliance.
I think that is one of those very important things I'm trying to look at first, the reliability of the data that AI is going to use either for Sharia purposes, whether it is validated or what is the source and how updated are those information, be it open source or it is carefully crafted information that AI is leveraging upon.
Right.
Yeah.
And if I want to share a bit more on this, there was an instance where, it was early days of I'm not talking about long ago, maybe just around a couple of years back, when the new types of AI, artificial intelligence, which are broadly different language models, which can provide answers in a human understandable language.
Okay.
So these AIs, when it was early days for them, I had my personal experience asking a lot of questions, and I found bulk of the AI, they would make up the hadith, Quranic verses, etc., which are not available, just completely made up. And when it was challenged, the AI would say sorry. But that sorry doesn't mean after you make some decisions based on this information, right? And there is a very important hadith about making up the hadith, as Rasulullah ﷺ said, "Man kadhaba alayya muta'ammidan falyatabawwa maq'adahu minan nar," aw kama qala alayhi salatu wassalam. Whoever deliberately makes a false statement representing my statement, Rasulullah ﷺ's statement, saying that as if Rasulullah ﷺ said that, falyatabawwa maq'adahu minan nar, he should prepare his place in hellfire. Na'uzubillah min zalik. So imagine when AI is, and recently I had this another interesting experience, and it was in a Sharia relevant meeting. I wouldn't say it's a Sharia board meeting, but it was a Sharia relevant meeting, where one of the members suddenly produced a reference from Ayufi Sharia standards. And during that particular time, I was not available. I was traveling, and I had to rejoin after some time.
Yep.
And when I joined, I saw that a decision was already made based on a reference from IU fishery standards. When I see it at the first glance, I can easily understand that there is no such reference available in IUFI because of two things. Number one, I have been, alhamdulillah, teaching or learning IUFI standards for quite some time. And secondly, also, if I can put the Sharia analogy, I can easily understand that it is beyond some Sharia rationale. So I tried to easily go to the IUFI standard itself, and the clause was referenced as 5.2.1, and I go to the standard, I see there is no such clause.
Wow.
It stops at 5.2, meaning the entire clause was made up and was made by an AI, and based on that a decision was made. So later on, I immediately called the person who brought this reference. I said, it looks like a AI generated reference. He went back, he told the AI, and the AI apologized. But what is the use of this apology? You have already made the decision. So we had to reverse the entire decision, which was the outcome for an entire meeting. So that is the danger that we carry when we are considering AI for such Sharia matters.
I think before we you're trying to touch on some of those conversations we are going to have going on, and that is about the validity, as well as at times you can look at AI bias as part of those issues. We are still going to touch on that, but before we move forward, I'm going to touch on something else for us to really take a sort of chronological conversation. So moving on, trying to understand some of those things that you've mentioned, I want to highlight some of this. That is looking at the issue of technicality in AI, looking at the technical issues and other technical points, especially looking at some terms like black box, like machine learning, like unexplainability. How does this balance with Sharia? Understanding that part of the inbuilt of AI are these ingredients. So where does Sharia stand in terms of clarity and unexplainability?
Yeah, thank you so much. That's the point that I was trying to address earlier as well. How AI outputs the content, it depends, number one, on the data that what it was fed with. Because if you don't feed with any data, then AI cannot generate any response as well. Secondly, it also depends on some algorithms, some mathematical ways to generate and understand and reproduce contents, which we also refer to as machine learning. Now, when it comes to these algorithms, this is where bias can come. Bias can come actually in the source contents as well, the data as well. Imagine I only feed data of a particular fiqh. We know 4 popular fiqh: Hanafi, Shafi'i, Maliki, Hanbali. Imagine I only feed with Hanafi, or only Shafi'i, or only Hanbali. So I expect the outcome based on that only, isn't it?
Definitely.
So, and then further the algorithms. Like when we can translate algorithm into methodology. Let's say for Sharia we have usul fiqh. Now over the years, over the centuries, the fuqaha, the ulama, the scholars have worked so hard, mashallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of them with Jannah al-Firdaus. I mean, they have worked so hard that they came up with these methodologies based on the different rulings of Sharia, based on the different ahkam. And now it is easier for us to apply those methodologies into our ijtihad, into our day-to-day analogies and fatwas and resolutions. Now, can we fit these usul fiqh in the AI? We can theoretically, but the AIs that are currently popular, definitely they don't do that. They have their own algorithms. And not only that, the black box thing that you referred, what it means is that even sometimes the output that is generated, maybe the scientists or the technologists who work behind that AI, they also cannot explain based on what algorithm, what methodology the AI generated that content. Meaning that there is no responsibility behind that content that was generated. I gave earlier an example of apology, but then later on, who you're going to give the blame? Right? It would be the one who is using the AI, but he may be just relying on the AI, considering it as a reliable or authentic source. So the fundamental problem itself is how the AI is producing the content itself. how it is making the judgment.
Yep.
On the contrary, as a mufti, if we look at the different literature from Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, the Imam Ghazali rahimahullah, and many others, the fuqaha in fiqh, Hanafi, Shafi'i, Maliki, Hanbali, every fiqh, they have produced a lot of books or literature on usulul ifta, on adabul mufti, like how the mufti should behave, what should be the attributes, what should be the conditions. So few things that they mentioned in general. For example, a mufti is basically a muwaqqi'a, a one who is signing on behalf of Sharia, because people do not communicate directly with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in terms of what is halal, what is haram. They communicate with Quran, Sunnah, and then they go to muftis to get the interpretation. So when the mufti says it's halal, it is as if they are signing off on behalf of Sharia. So that's a very sacred role that they are paying, the responsibility they are paying. Secondly, they should have some skills, they should have some particular knowledge, and more importantly, they should have very good understanding of the context. Of the context of the mustafti. Mustafti is the one who is seeking the fatwa. It could be an individual, it could be an entity in today's context, and also the waqi', the circumstances. So the context of the mustafti as well as the waqi', let's say in today's context, it could be interpreted as the business world, as what's going on in the world, etc. Also, in current terms, it is also known as fiqhul ma'alat, what will happen based on my fatwa or something. Now, these contexts are not available with the AIs because it's machine. It doesn't have the emotions. So these things are completely missing. Number one, the methodology. Number one, the idea of the context, the ma'alat, etc. For which it is very difficult to consider them that these AIs can produce fatwas or resolutions as if they are the muftis or they are the Sharia scholars.
Interesting. I want to touch on one of those things you mentioned. That is about the emotion around judgment, even as a mufti, which means that we could have a scenario where people come with the same issue, but they could get different judgments, correct?
Exactly. This is,
and that has to do with the what surround different situation. The emotion that surround the situation might be different from each other, even though it is the same issue. And it is going to be valid if the mufti is giving different judgment based on what situation each of them is having. And this is missing in AI.
Precisely, because when if we look again for the adabul mufti and every other way, books that talks about the attributes and characteristics and ways of issuing fatwas, we will see one very important thing is to understand the context. If as a mufti doesn't understand the context, doesn't have that emotional understanding, then the whole essence of fatwa will be missing. And that is why another very important relevant thing is a fatwa is only relevant for the particular mustafti. You see, this is not your question, but just to share, today we have something known as fatwa shopping. People will have some personal circumstances, they will search around the web and they will try to search similar circumstantial istifta. Istifta means the questions. And they will take the response and apply to themselves. On critical matters, this is very dangerous because the mufti may have considered the country, the jurisdiction, the person it's himself, the gender, the family, a lot of things. Culture, in other words, the urf, the customary practices, a lot of things. Now, a urf that is applicable, let's say in Africa, may not be applicable in Asia. Even within Asia, we have so many different types of urf. So these are very important bits of context or ingredients that are blended into a fatwa. Now, I cannot, follow a fatwa that was given to someone else for a different context, even though apparently the issue is same, the question is same. Now, if I apply the same thing on AI, we can easily understand that AI is not capable to grasp that context. And so far, how we see the development, it may not be able to, get this context anytime, unless and until, of course, a mufti or a capable Sharia scholar gives it the context. Based on that, it can provide certain information or certain thoughts on some rulings, etc. So we need some capable mufti behind who will be dictating the AI for his research or something.
Interesting. And again, when we look at the practical industry, for example, and we see that we are beginning to witness the development of different AI that are tailored towards Sharia review for products, creating different contracts. And we also understand and learn that currently in some part of the Middle East, we are seeing the development where over 10,000 contracts are being fed into the AI, so the AI can have an understanding of varied products and can be able to generate as far as contract is concerned. So as much as we are trying to create the database that can be leveraged upon through machine learning for AI, can we still completely rely on the fact that apart from in the area of creating product that has to do with contract, we know it does not require so much emotion, right? But in the other ways, can we also provide as much information for AI? Say, for example, combining different school of thought, just like you mentioned, whether it is Ambali, Maliki, combine all this together and still rely that AI can give judgment or give fatwa?
Very good question. I see all of the technological advancements as a ni'mah, as a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there is a hadith, ال-حكمة ضالة المؤمن فحيث وجدها فهو حق الناس بها. That hikmah or wisdom is like a lost property of a believer. So wherever he finds his property, he is the first one to grab it. Yeah. He is the most eligible to grab it. So as a ni'mah, we should utilize it in the best manner. As I mentioned, the pitfalls come because number one of the sources. You already mentioned that if we feed with proper sources. I saw another work also recently, mashallah. What they did is there is a digital library called 𝐿-ⵎክተባ الشاملة, very popular digital library, renowned to almost all Sharia scholars over the globe, mashallah. What it has been doing is it has digitalized thousands of our Turasi fiqh books, tafsir, etc., the ilmi books, and it has put into a very versatile software where we can search, we can find easily, etc. Yeah. So what recently a team has done is they have took the entire library and on top of it put an AI. So if you can choose a particular book, a number of books, a particular fiqh, etc., a particular category or genre, and from there you can ask questions. So what it will do, it will create the response only based on these books. And it will give you the glimpse, like a tooltip. When you put your mouse on it, you can see the actual reference from the book. So that way you can easily verify if this information was proper or not. Yeah. So that's a very good example of utilizing AI. The other one that you mentioned, where it was fed with 10,000 contracts or different resolutions, maybe the resolutions of different fiqh bodies, Sharia standards, other standards. Definitely AI can do a lot of good job into speeding the research. Research takes a lot of time, but if you have these tools, you can speed up the research. I still remember when first 𝐿-ⵎክተባ الشاملة was released, and I shared this with some of my. I was a student that time, and when I shared with some of my teachers and students, many of them they considered this like a worse innovation, because you are going away from traditional way of learning knowledge from the books, etc. While that is true, but on the other hand, with the ever evolving, fast evolving universe that we are living in, you need so much research, so many research, and not many researchers are available as well. So these tools again are ni'mah. We speed up our research so that we can go back to Sharia as soon as possible. We don't need to wait for research for several months. It can be done maybe within several days or weeks, inshallah. So back to the question again, I feel if we can feed this data properly,
Yeah.
we can dictate the algorithm. Because remember, another thing I mentioned is about the algorithm.
Yeah.
We don't know what algorithms being used, especially by closed source AI. There are open source and they are closed source by various technology giants. But if these AIs are created by Muslims, if the algorithms are created by Muslims, we know the algorithms. We know it cannot be biased.
Yeah.
You know, it can follow the methodology. In all such cases, I mean, with all these things in place, we can have a lot of reliance of the AI. But your question was, can we completely consider this as a final output?
Yeah.
I would say no, because there is a very important verse in Quran. Allah mentioned, "Fas'alu ahla dhikri in kuntum la ta'lamun." If you don't know, then ask the people of remembrance, people of dhikr, people of knowledge. So asking and involving the people of knowledge, the actual scholars, is like an obligation kind of based on this verse. And based on all that I mentioned earlier as well, it is a must to have a human Sharia scholar, human Sharia officer to verify the content and then sign off. Because otherwise it's a very critical matter. If we rely completely on AI and na'uzubillah, we take a wrong decision, taking into consideration that this is the final output, it may really create a lot of damage. Na'uzubillah.
Thank you very much. I think you are beginning to give some sort of solutions, because when you mentioned earlier about the fact that the AI has to bring about generate a resolution, a standard 521, which does not exist, and also trying to match that with asking the people of zikr, asking the people of knowledge. So all of this also speaks to the reality of the algorithm, whereby when the algorithm is set, the codes are written at the back end, and it also gives AI the gap to say, I would revert back, or we are advancing our database, or we are updating, or I can give you the update in another 5 weeks or in another 3 weeks. Because I could remember some of those times I was doing research, even though it's a paid software, at times it's going to tell you that this is a lengthy work. It's going to take me 5 days, 7 days, releasing this in batches. You understand? So even though it is paid, so how much if we are able to have an algorithm that is written such that anything that is beyond its current database, it can disclaim to say, at the moment, we are not expanded to this. So going forward in another update, we'll be able to. That way, users are not misled. There's no distortion in information, and we don't also mislead the group. I mean, a lot of people. So how about we have an algorithm that is also inclusive? And being inclusive means that, and this comes to my next question, looking at the role of Sharia advisors, or the roles of the Muftis, or the our Sheikh, do we see a time where there is need for us to include them in practical programming? Pardon me. Do we see a time where there is need for us to maybe some set of them, maybe a few of them, understand clearly AI, or understand clearly technology, programs, Python, and all of that, and they are able to, because what you don't know, you can't participate. You can only have your expertise in Sharia. So when a technical person in IT is writing, you are blind completely. You don't know what is happening. So do you see a time where for us to be able to really develop an AI that can be reliable, where we need to start including our Sharia advisor in AI development?
A very good question. I would touch first on the first point that you were mentioning, like, can we have some AI where we detect what the algorithms are? I think at this moment already there are at least 1 or 2 AI where it is designed in a way that it will only respond based on the sources that are given. So if you upload certain videos or audios or some books, articles, it will only respond from it. If it is beyond that, it will say, I don't have the information. So I think that serves our purpose for the time being. and Sharia scholars, as I know, many are already using such AI to expedite their research process. But in the future, for many other usage as well, because AI is not only for Sharia. We are talking today about Sharia, but we can use AI for various types of tasks within Islamic finance. For example, risk management, risk scoring. We can also use for Sharia audit, Sharia risk management, Sharia review as well, or even other functions of Islamic finance. I think everyone is now exploring that.
Yeah.
The second question which you asked is, do we need in the future, or do we foresee that Sharia advisors would also learn coding, etc.? I think, as there is a very famous Arabic proverb which says, "Likulli fannin rijal." Every fun, every subject has a subject matter expert. So for Sharia, we need dedicated people who have subject matter expertise. But however, in today's context, whichever discipline you are coming from, either you are coming from Sharia or non-Sharia or Islamic finance or law or everything, you should have a core expertise, and on top of that, you should have some blended understanding of different disciplines. When it comes to Sharia, we have the same. Let's say we have the core knowledge of Sharia. On top of that, we need to understand on a broader term how legal works, what are the basic accounting principles, as well as technology.
Yeah.
If we don't understand on the very basic thing, like how technology works, what actually coding does, then either we are too ambitious about technology or we are too negative about technology, both of which are problematic.
Yeah.
When we know at least the basics of how coding works, you mentioned about Python, very good. Sharia scholars at their young age can be given the training of basic Python, for example.
Basic.
Or whatever other languages. In my particular personal experience, even if you are trained in a very single programming language, you can have the basic understanding of how technology works far better than many others. And that will really help on evaluating how technology works, how the decision making process works, how the underlying things work. And especially today with the evolving technology of AI, everyone, be it from Sharia background or any other background, because it's a new technology everyone is using, everyone should have the basic understanding.
So I think before we wrap up, I would like us to discuss a bit on Sharia interest and also looking at commercial interest, because at the very center of businesses, we have the interest for profitization.
From their perspective, I don't see any difference, because they make money if the enterprise uses their AI anyway. So either it is for Sharia or for non-Sharia, they have no difference. But it is on the entity's interest. Like you mentioned, let's say an Islamic financial institution, an Islamic bank, for example. It is in their interest to use the AI for efficient purposes. So if they are using for Sharia related things, then all that we discussed today in this episode will be relevant, so that they are aware of these pitfalls and they make sure that there is a proper control mechanism, there is a proper governance on how AI is being used for any matters related to Sharia.
So because when we look at how at times maybe the need to profit at times might affect how algorithms are written to be a little bit soft far as it is concerned, because in some cases areas that are supposed to, or that are expected to be tough on as far as Sharia compliance is concerned, when this has an intersection with commercialization, the need to realize as well as stick to Sharia principles in ensuring that algorithms do not conflict because of interest of commercialization.
Yeah, very good point. Okay, I get it. What you are trying to say is, let's say an AI is developed in a manner to assist the company's interest, the financial institution's interest, business interest.
Yes.
So whenever they produce the Sharia papers, etc., they are, even though the Sharia aspect, by default is seemingly a bit more stringent on this, more stricter, but it is producing in a way that Sharia scholars consider this as very light.
Yes.
So there is that risk, and that is again a bias risk. And that bias risk is always there for Sharia scholars. Even without AI, we always have to be aware of the biasness that is provided by the business. Sometimes the business will say, hey, if we don't get this approval, our business will be bankrupt. So as a Sharia advisor or a Sharia scholar, we always need to navigate through this biasness. It's a continuous challenge that we have to face. With AI, I think, yes, I agree that it could be one of the biasness as well we need to be aware of. And we have to have proper mechanism. The Sharia officers and scholars need to have proper mechanism how they can overcome such biasness. And that is why independent verification of these information that are produced by AI is very important. Yeah.
So I think so that also gives a much serious task to the Sharia advisors to understand that far and beyond profitization, they also have the responsibility of accountability. And that speaks to the fact that if, for example, maybe the organization or the Islamic financial institution is a bit pushy or is a bit enforcing in trying to relax some of these Sharia principles, that is in order to pave way for commercialization. So the onus is on the Sharia advisor to ensure that they are the last gatekeeper as far as ensuring compliance is concerned, right?
Agreed.
So I think this is where we are going to end this conversation. Thank you so much for joining, and also thank you for taking your time to listen to our session. And we believe that as much as possible, this is just the beginning of this conversation. We are planning to ensure that this is an ongoing conversation. We are going to be having different discourse as far as Islamic finance is concerned at large, not just on AI, but touching on all aspects, sectors, and also industries as far as Islamic finance is concerned. Thank you again for joining Bismillah podcast by ADL Advisory. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.